The second that final buzzer echoed through the arena, the place absolutely erupted. But it's what happened behind those locker room doors just minutes later that's got the entire internet losing its mind. A raw, electric, totally unfiltered clip of Caitlin Clark going wild after the Fever's jaw-dropping Commissioner's Cup win hit social media and instantly blew up. She wasn't even suited up, didn't have a single stat on the box score. Yet there she was, full of life, laughing her head off, jumping around with Aaliyah Boston on TikTok Live, proudly blasting out "Proud of my girls" to her story. But Caitlin Clark in the middle of it goes, he yells in, "I just know everyone in the league is sick," and Aaliyah Boston goes, "They're pissed. Congratulations to the Indiana Fever. We are the champions of the 2025 Commissioner's Cup." Caitlin Clark didn't just witness this victory. She felt every ounce of it, living it alongside her teammates like she'd just nailed the game winner herself. That video from inside the locker room, it's the gut punch reminder that she's way more than just the face of this franchise. She's the very heartbeat. The WNBA was about it immediately. Nobody, especially not ESPN, saw this coming. They were already rolling out graphics that read, "Lynx dominate Fever to capture Commissioner's Cup." But on the hardwood, Indiana clearly hadn't read that script. ESPN did, with the Indiana Fever getting dominated by the Minnesota Lynx. Contrary to what you may have seen on ESPN's YouTube page, the Fever dominated the Lynx to win the Commissioner's Cup. Down by 13 in the first quarter, missing shots left and right, looking rattled and borderline lost, it seemed like the Fever were headed straight for a long, painful night. Then suddenly, everything flipped. An 18-0 tidal wave hit. 8 entire minutes where the Lynx couldn't buy a single point. In an instant, the Fever completely rewrote the narrative. And that chaotic, champagne-soaked locker room, that's where the real fireworks happened. As the team charged back down the tunnel after the final horn, phones were already up, music shaking the walls, and there was Caitlin Clark, not in game gear, nowhere on the scoreboard, but dead center of the celebration, laughing, hollering, catching everything on live for her followers. Her "Proud of my girls" story was up before some fans had even left the stands. She throw some freaking gasolina. And as that's all came by Taylor Swift, fans, blogs, big media outlets. They snatched it up and shared it everywhere in seconds. Caitlin wasn't just clapping from the sidelines. She was setting the vibe for the entire squad. She jumped into Aaliyah Boston's live, hype practically exploding out of her, then dropped the line that lit the sports world on fire. Adsverger, Caitlin Clark is there. There's coming in on live, and in nowhere. I know the rest of the league is sick. And just like that, it went nuclear before the champagne even hit the carpet. Fans clipped it for Twitter, turned it into viral TikToks, plastered it on Reels. Caitlin's off-the-cuff hype turned into the anthem of the entire night. It wasn't staged. It wasn't cooked up by some PR team. It was pure, unfiltered energy. This wasn't just about snagging a shiny trophy. This was a statement, and it was Caitlin Clark who put the exclamation point on it. What made that locker room moment so iconic wasn't just Caitlin's savage line. It was the fact that she didn't even log a single minute in the game. And yet somehow, her influence was everywhere, woven into every second of Indiana's epic win. The 2025 Commissioner's Cup was supposed to be a Lynx blowout. They rolled in as the heavyweights, stacked top to bottom with one of the most loaded lineups in the league. 74-59 was the final, guys. Let's check out this damn box score real quick before we get into how the world feel about this, guys. I am ecstatic right now. Energy's through the roof, because you wouldn't know why. Because they just showed the world they could still win it all. ESPN literally had a draft stream prep that said, "Lynx dominate Fever." They'd already counted Indiana out before the ball even tipped. They didn't see the smoldering fire waiting in that Fever locker room, but Caitlin did. That's why her celebration wasn't just loud. It was deeply personal. She'd heard all the doubters, all the so-called experts saying Indiana was a one-woman show, that without Clark, they were toast. The team shattered that narrative, and from the bench, Caitlin was the loudest voice in the building. I do want to see this get better. I think that once Caitlin Clark comes back, there will be more of a rhythm, and You know, you can't say that the Fever would even be in the Commissioner's Cup if it weren't for Caitlin Clark. She was ready in this match where she would be defending Nafisa Collier, and I mean, you gotta just laugh at, not because she was desperate to prove the haters wrong, but because she knew exactly how much her teammates poured into making that night possible. As the Fever locked in on defense during that second quarter, putting the clamps on the Lynx so tight they couldn't buy a bucket for over 8 straight minutes, Caitlin Clark was right there on the sideline, laser focused. Her posture, her reactions, her entire vibe was fully invested, and it lit a spark that spread across the bench like wildfire. When the game finally ended, she wasn't just politely applauding from her seat. She was sprinting down the sideline, grabbing teammates in bear hugs, hollering her lungs out, and then doing what all real leaders do best, making sure the spotlight shone on everyone else first. That one simple, proud of my girl story, it tore through social media like wildfire. It reminded fans, teammates, even the doubters that Caitlin Clark isn't just a superstar with the ball. She's the kind who knows how to lead without ever stepping on the floor. But then came the real mic drop. Midway through a hyped-up TikTok live, Caitlin leaned into the camera and said the line that every Fever fan had been quietly thinking. The Indiana Fever were prepped for this game because there's a target on their backs. Especially when Caitlin's there, there is a target on their backs that is not necessarily on other teams' backs. I know the rest of the league is sick. It wasn't cocky, it wasn't petty, it was just straight, unfiltered truth. The league had basically left Indiana for dead. The media storyline was, no Caitlin, no chance. And yet there they were, trophy in hand. That little clip didn't just trend, it detonated. ESPN, Bleacher Report, Overtime WBB, and every WNBA fan account alive reposted it 100 different ways. This was bigger than popping champagne. It was a free masterclass in leadership. That viral locker room moment isn't just being shared because it was entertaining. It's already reshaping how people define what a franchise cornerstone really looks like. And that's what made it even more powerful. Caitlin didn't log a single minute on the court that night, yet her fingerprint was on every second of that win, because that Commissioner's Cup was supposed to be Minnesota's to lose. The Lynx came in looking like the surest bet in the WNBA. Stacked, balanced, veteran-laced. ESPN had their little Lynx Dominate Fever graphic ready to roll. They wrote Indiana off like it was a formality. They missed the fire that was already crackling inside that Fever locker room. And Caitlin? Oh, she felt it. That's why her reaction was so unscripted, so fierce. She knew exactly what the narrative was. Indiana's nothing without her. One-dimensional. Easy pickings. And so watching her teammates bulldoze that storyline, she became their biggest hype woman because she knew exactly what it cost them to prove everybody wrong. It wasn't about her needing to prove anything. It was about knowing firsthand how hard that team grinds, how badly they wanted it, and how they'd earned every last confetti drop. During that suffocating second-quarter defensive clinic, while the Lynx couldn't get a shot to fall if the rim was the size of a swimming pool, Caitlin was practically vibrating courtside. Her commitment was so locked in, it infected the entire bench unit. When the final horn blared, she wasn't just clapping politely. She charged the hardwood like she'd been out there dropping 30. I do want to see this get better. I think that once Caitlin Clark comes back, there will be more of a rhythm. She grabbed teammates, yelled encouragement, fired everyone up, and did what all the best leaders always do. Pointed the cameras away from herself and back toward the squad. That tiny Instagram post, it blew up across social media. Fans, reporters, even rival players took notice. It was proof that Caitlin doesn't have to fill up a stat sheet to dominate a room. She leads from wherever she's standing. Because let's be honest, this wasn't about some lone superstar dropping 40 or highlight dunks. This was a gritty, team-fueled triumph. Natasha Howard balled out, snagging a double-double and shutting down one of the Lynx's deadliest scorers. Ari McDonald ran the floor like her hair was on fire, pressing the pace and harassing defenders. One of them, I thought early on in the game, really helped them early, and it's Ari McDonald. Regardless of plus-minus, I think at the very start of the game, Ari McDonald's was the player that really brought him into it. Start like 12 points, no one above 16 points, no one above 16. I thought she was fantastic. And Aaliyah Boston. She anchored the whole operation, dominating boards, locking up the paint, and facilitating offense like a 10-year vet. Yet through it all, there was Caitlin, the heartbeat, hugging every player, gassing up every bench contributor, catching the whole celebration on her phone. That now famous clip of her dancing around, filming everyone, with that massive grin while champagne rained down in the background. It was bigger than content. It was a symbol. It proved you don't always need buckets to be invaluable. And maybe the scariest part for the rest of the WNBA? This team just did that without her. Now imagine what's waiting when Caitlin's back on the floor, running the break, launching logo threes, feeding Aaliyah in stride. That locker room clip wasn't just a hype video. It was a warning shot. The league got a preview of a fever squad that can win without their biggest gun. And with Caitlin fueling it all from the sidelines, this is only the beginning. Indiana isn't just Caitlin Clark's team anymore. It's quickly turning into her entire movement. The Indiana Fever didn't just snag the 2025 Commissioner's Cup. They flipped the league's whole narrative on its head. And that now legendary locker room footage of Caitlin made sure it was immortalized. No stat lines needed. No highlight mixtape. Just pure, visceral leadership and a presence you can't bottle or buy. She wasn't in the box score, but she was in every frame that mattered. Rallying, guiding, lifting her team up into something bigger. This wasn't just about a championship. It was a statement of intent. The Fever aren't some one-woman novelty act. They're a growing force, a new culture, a squad building something real. And Caitlin, she's not just their future, she's their pulse. So to all those talking heads who doubted, who said Indiana couldn't do it without her, Caitlin's already dropped the mic for them. I know the rest of the league is sick. After this, they absolutely should be.